Previously, economic growth had stalled, unemployment was high, and many struggled to find work. Today, St. Lucia has experienced its highest economic growth in years. Unemployment is at historic lows, and investment has surged, totaling over $3 billion. Real growth, real jobs, real prosperity. That's progress you can measure.
It's now time for Meet the Minister, hosted by Terence Fenelor. Mr. Fenelor, good to see you again. Welcome.
Good morning, Andre. Thanks. It's nice to be here. We're on what, 95.9 FM around the island. Powerful.
Don't worry, working on the posters. Working on the posters.
This poster is always putting me off, 97.1.
I know. Right? I know. The printers, they're the ones taking a little time.
I know. But that's a long time, Andre.
Well, maybe you can use your influence.
I have
Give them a little.
Andre, your listeners, we're on Facebook, YouTube, X, online, and online else, Andre.
That's right.
So we're everywhere. So it's
the
nice
north,
to be
the south, the east, the west.
Everywhere. And for those in the diaspora, welcome you this morning. Now, Meet the Minister. I'm here again with one of my favorite guys, Alex George Jr. Because Andre, this time you will not be able to find a minister. Because everybody now, it's bacchanal time.
I could imagine.
It's a carnival atmosphere in the country. I mean, this morning when I was leaving home to come here, Andre, I was forced to make a detour because the whole of Marshall was blocked. So
Wow.
you can imagine, Andre.
Wow.
So I passed through entry port a little again, I got stuck. But I was able to wriggle my way out and find my way here through the back roads.
I've been calling my rep for close to 2 weeks. He normally takes my calls.
But this time,
Can't get him.
Andre, yes, because this guy's on us. Last night I was at Parkway with the Prime Minister, and his voice was almost gone, Andre. You understand? Because these guys have been on the hustings day, and sometimes they have been 4-5 stops, it's not a matter you go in one place, Now, even I'm a two-bit man in this. I have, I go to Babono, from Babono, I go to Cashews East, etc. And I have to tell the fellas, boy, I ain't eating years again, boy. It's two a night, and I have to finish it. And they should have using my vitamin C and my zinc and magnesium and stuff. But Andre now, man, the body can only. I have not gone to swim for the whole week.
Oh.
And Alex, every morning I get up to go to swim.
That's your ritual.
That's my ritual. I get up at 5 o'clock, I head to the beach, I swim for an hour or so, talk to the guys, because it's good to bond, and then, go home, shower, and go to the studio. I have not been able to go to swimming, Alex, because trust me, when the body says no, and I run out of bush, my soursop and my guava leaf, no, Andre, and my oregano, I use that. That is, I use that very religiously. You understand? So, but it is all good. It will soon be over. And this, what you want to tell us what's happening today, Alex?
Nomination day?
Yes, yeah. Just tell the nation what
the
goes
day
on.
that it happens.
It happens. Yeah.
You become official.
That's right.
You actually have to go, in front of the returning officer and present your deposit and you present your witnesses.
So it's only after today we know who
is really going to be on the ballot. In the respective 17 constituencies. And on December the 1st. So it's a very, very important day. And of course, it's also a day when all, political entities, parties want to show strength.
That's right.
And to come out to support their numbers, their individual candidates. So very, very important day. In fact, I think there's a live going on. St. Lucia Labour Party right now, doing a bit of coverage of all the constituencies.
So I mean, Andre, it's a wonderful time. It's festive. It's almost like carnival,
I love it actually. I love it.
Yeah, I know why you love it. I know I have to love it. Andre's a businessman through and through. And really like a Warren Buffett man. He ain't letting anything slide,
Right,
and I like that, Andre. I admire that. That is important. That is important. But we're here today, Alex and I, we're here. We're at large, basically. We're going to talk about St. Jude. People say St. Jude's. There's no...
St. Jude. St. Jude is the proper name, yeah.
It's St. Jude.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little about that and maybe clear up. Andre, anything I need to clear up? I heard a 66-year-old man saying he has changed. But Andre did not finish the sentence. He wanted to say, I have changed my clothes. Because I saw him threatening Renault. Is on record saying the man threatened him.
But in all fairness, I don't think he said he's changed. He says he's not the same person he was.
He's a changed man.
Semantics, splitting hairs, semantics.
But you see, you give the impression you changed, so people think you've reformed.
That's right.
But that's not what he's actually originally said, you know. He said he's changed. He's become wiser. So in other words, you know, his approach has changed. That's what he's originally said.
But actually, it might be worse, because you cannot tell me a man like Reno, you know, meeting and you're going to tell Reno you're not going to work in St. Lucia again. Have you seen that, Andre?
I've seen it, yes.
I mean, Andre, this is diabolic. A man like Reno.
Was that a recent thing that happened?
Andre, I don't care when it happened. So you do not tell that to people on the whole. We are all St. Lucians, Andre. Reno has done serious work, not just in St. Lucia, in the Caribbean. This man deserves an honor. And then you go look at a man like Reno, you want to victimize him in a lot of work again. Why? Andre, you know, just like I will say, well, because it's Andre, not going to give him any ads. We're going to cripple his station so he can't pay his bills. Andre, that's diabolical.
But it's a mindset, you see.
It's a mindset.
Remember what you said about Reno's daughter? She's a non-entity.
So when you come and tell me you change, Andre, no, that you can't change overnight. A leopard can't change his spots like that. But Andre,
yesterday the opposition, they mentioned public funds being used for the St. Jude Hospital activity that just took place, because he said it was a political event.
That was a political event. How? I mean, these guys are.
You remember the swearing in Viewfort in 2016?
Yeah, what is that?
Over $500,000. Yeah, it was about that. Yeah, yes. They had a whole function at Coconut Bay afterwards. I mean, come on, if you want to talk about. And this was a swearing in, which is normally a very small ceremony that happens up at Government House.
Exploded it. $20,000 at most, you know.
Flew in people, you remember people,
yes.
You know.
Andre, come on. We are handing over, well, we're on that already, so we're going to back. We are having the handing over of St. Jude. That's a major, that's historic. After 16 years. And you're not talking about public funds, but of course it's public funds. Even if it's public funds used, Andre, what's wrong with that? That was not political, Andre. That was, Andre, I am sure you're happy that St. Jude is finally complete.
Yes, of course.
Mm-hmm. And that is something for celebration. Now, Calix knows very much.
And by the way, they were saying that it's not the hospital that's complete, it's just the building.
That's semantics. That's pure semantics at this point. Because, I mean, a hospital obviously is a building. It is the people who work in the place. It's the equipment that you have. It's a complete institution. Yes. Right. So, but the building is the foundation. It is what you have to have. This is what we've been arguing about for the past 16 years. Yeah. That where they are right now in the George Odlum Stadium, albeit it's thankfully, if we did not have the George Odlum Stadium to begin with, I don't know what we would have done. Yeah. You know, we would have certainly had no choice but to perhaps have done something makeshift a long time ago at St. Jude. But we had the space, but the space was inadequate, about 50,000 square feet of space at George Odlum Stadium. But it was only providing about 45 beds. And when you look at the information that, based on the studies that have been done, we needed a 90-bed minimum hospital in the south of the island to deal with that catchment of about 70,000 people that live there. And so there was a deficit that has been impacting even places like OKU, because when you can't get a bed at St. Jude, what do you expect people to do? A lot of people, in fact, they won't even bother going to St. Jude, they might just go straight to OKU. So we were seeing the impact already in respect of the pressure on our healthcare system. So it is definitely important to have a building. If we don't have a building, you don't have a hospital. That's where it all begins. But it's that let's face it, what is the own record of the United Workers' Party in terms of hospitals? You had OKEU. When they came in 2016, what did they find? They found a hospital that was complete.
That's right.
Everything had been done already, right? The physical infrastructure was there. The equipment was there, right? Millions and millions of dollars provided by the EU to equip that hospital, right? Even with state-of-the-art stuff, MRI, machines, CT scan. And for 4 years, they did not open that hospital. They made every single excuse not to open that hospital. They said they brought in Health City Cayman, because remember the agenda at the time was how can we privatize healthcare. And they then went on after in fact it was this government that had to pay
$24 million
to Health City Cayman. Yes. You know, when they came in, the bill was still there. This government had to come and get money through CIP, over $16 million to pump in to deal with the debts that were left behind
yes.
as a result of what was going on there. But they moved. They only moved, in fact, when they were forced to do so as a result of COVID-19. That is the record of the United Workers' Party when it comes to commissioning of hospitals. Now, that is not the intention at all. In fact, the process of commissioning at St. Jude has already begun. And the CEO has already indicated they had a commissioning team in place since May of this year. They've already shifted the non-critical, non-medical aspects of operations already, the finance, the HR departments. She herself is already working there. That's where her office is, the admin. You're now seeing the physiotherapy. So come Monday, if you have a physiotherapy appointment, you're going to end up going to the St. Jude at Auger. That's where you'll be going. The laundry is another state-of-the-art laundry. Fellas have said they've never seen that kind of equipment in their life. They had to be trained. Now, this is the point, Andre. You have a very complex system when you're talking about a hospital. And you've got to do it through a process, right? They're talking about the catering now. So the kitchen and cafeteria are going to be opening soon at St. Jude. But while that that shift is happening, they need about 2 weeks, right? So within that 2 weeks, they have to find a third party, private person to provide meals and for the operating hospital that's still going on. It's a shift. You cannot do it all at once. That's a very risky step if you believe that somehow one day you get the building, the next day you can move in. No. It can never work, and it never works that way anywhere in the world because it is a risk that you are taking. So you have to now go through the process of testing. There's equipment that is coming in. We know, of course, the delays that have been faced because of the equipment. We've got a lot of logistical problems. And this is worldwide. That's a lot of equipment is coming from Asia
and Jamaica.
And on top of that, we've seen the impact of Hurricane Melissa on the Port of Kingston. The Port of Kingston is the busiest transshipment port in the Caribbean. Most of our goods are passing through Jamaica, right? And so it's a mess right now because obviously Jamaica is trying to bring in their own relief supplies and things that they need right now to rebuild that country. And then on top of that, of course, you have the transshipment situation being jammed as a result of that. But the equipment is coming in. Yes. And we saw, of course, 3 containers coming in. They were last Friday. So again, there's a process of destuffing that equipment, installing that equipment. Now, even in the installation, it's one thing to bring in the equipment. You now have to bring in the specialists because we're talking about specialist equipment, medical equipment. You have to bring in the companies that provided that equipment, have to send down specialists. They have to do testing. They have to do training of the staff because a lot of the equipment is not present and current at St. Jude, at the stadium. So there is a timeline that has to be followed where the entity, the St. Jude Hospital, is going through a systematic commissioning of the entire hospital. They, of course, are bringing on outpatient services because these are the easiest things to bring on. And eventually what you're going to be seeing is that big move where the inpatients, the persons who are on a bed in St. Jude, have to then eventually be brought on. But it's a process that, of course, is not going to be taking the 4 years that the United Workers' Party was engaged in because it is an active process that is already happening as we speak.
Now, Andre, I'm not hitting you, but just to support colleagues, if we could have played the videos, because the director, I think, what's her name?
Miss Lydia Atkins.
Miss Lydia Atkins. Yes. We played her videos on another radio station, another TV station, another medium. And it's exactly what she's saying. And Andre, she explained that so beautifully, just as Calix has done. And people have to understand, man, this is just people. The opposition trying to score political points, I understand that. I even forgive them for that because they have nothing to latch onto, so they're trying to get something to pin around. But Andre, the process is in train, and very soon, as Calix says, sooner rather than later, because things are all the dominoes are falling into place. So sooner rather than later, don't be surprised before December is over. I mean,
before December, I would. I mean, I can't speak for them directly, and I know they want to be very careful in terms of building expectations. But I know certainly the dialysis is one of the areas that they're looking to try to move across very soon. Because again, that's an outpatient service. People come in, they spend a couple of hours there. But of course, even then, you know, they're going to be expanding the dialysis. That's another thing. I think there's the building that's in place can hold 25 dialysis chairs.
Yes,
that's
expanded.
When you consider what exists right now, I think they have about 8 dialysis chairs at the stadium. I mean, so you're talking about a significant expansion. It also means, therefore, your staffing has to be in place, right? So you've got to be looking at all these systems. And so, of course, they've brought in the experts to help them look at their human resource requirements, ensure that they have the kind of training that is necessary, ensure that, of course, the equipment is well installed, tested, because you don't want to have a situation where you're bringing in somebody, you know, and then you have, you know, it's the building also requires that you do simulations. So you are an ER doctor, you are a nurse, you're an orderly working there. You need to know the flow of the hospital. You need to literally understand where's where. How do I get a patient that has come in, being brought in by a person walking in? How do we treat that person in triage? How do we move them into a recovery situation? How do we move them from A&E up the lift into if they need surgery? You know, there's a whole process, and they actually have to do simulations to prepare themselves to ensure that they can deliver that in a time. Because you're talking about seconds, minutes that you need to be able to know what you're doing. You know, just like that. So it is important that that happens before this sort of idea, just bring the beds in, just bring the beds in. So that's like, I'm going to make that point. The other point I think we need to talk about is the cost of St. Jude. Because I cannot understand how the United Workers' Party is being so deceptive about their role in St. Jude. They're all over the place talking about, oh, the hospital has cost $400 million.
Yes.
Let's back up a little bit. Between 2010 and 2011, right? That financial year, 2011, 2012, which was under Stevenson King. That was under a government that included Alan Shastney, Guy Joseph.
Yes.
They were ministers in that government. They decided, right, at that time, under that government, with the consultants that they appointed, Hal Crow, the individual that they put in charge as project coordinator, Ms. Shanta King, they decided that they were going ahead to redevelop all of St. Jude Hospital on that site at Auger. That was a United Workers' Party decision to upgrade what they are now calling an old building. Now that old building is a very strong building, and I think Dr. Kenny Anthony made it was a military grade in terms of the structure that is there, right? So the structure, the bones of that hospital are solid. The layout of the hospital, in terms of how it is laid out, is a very good, solid layout.
That's despite the age?
Despite the age.
St. Mary's College and these buildings, these ruins, Andre, nothing knocking that down, you know.
Because and of course there were technical assessments that agreed to that. They obviously looked at the assessment, right? Now there were certain things obviously that had to change. So for example, the roofs were asbestos, right? Because that's the material they were using at the time. That has all been gutted out, and there's a process that had to go through in terms of removal of asbestos and whatnot. That was done by the United Workers' Party government, you know, under Stevenson King. They, at the end of that period, right, when they had the hospital, they had spent somewhere in the region of $33 million on that hospital. But the designs that were effectively used by the Kenny Anthony regime were already in place.
Yes.
Those were designs that were done prior to 2011, right? Prior to the Labour Party coming into power. Now, why am I saying that? Because here you have Mr. Guy Joseph and Alan Shastney and some of them now coming and saying, oh, you can't, you know, they couldn't use the hospital, oh, it's an old building. They approved the use of that facility. And so they are blatantly deceptive when they are now, they tried in 2016 to give the impression, right, that there were issues at the hospital. But you know, there's a backstory to that in respect of why Mr. Guy Joseph was so passionate about seeing that project end. Two reasons. The first was that he had a personal vendetta against the project coordinator. Because that project coordinator, who was in the Ministry of Economic Development, right, was asked to sign off on contracts from the post-Thomas recovery period. Remember, they were going about, there was a certain individual who was in charge of trying to desilt water intakes and all of that. And they sent their invoices. And everybody who looked at these invoices said that those invoices could not be real because they were exorbitant.
Highly inflated.
Highly inflated. So all the technocrats were passing it around. Nobody wanted to touch it, right? And that individual ended up saying, no, we cannot pay for that. And since that time, he has had a personal vendetta against that person who was the project coordinator. This was a person who was appointed by the King administration within of which he was a part of. But you see why when he came back, he had that vendetta. The second thing we have to appreciate is that when they got into power in June of 2016, the hospital had all the superstructure, all the concrete works, all the structural works of that hospital were done, right? What you had now were the need for installation of certain systems, the installation of the flooring, the installation of the painting of the building, the bringing in of equipment. That was what was required at that point to complete that hospital. And there was some civil works, right? But that did not make that project an attractive project for certain contractors.
Yes.
They wanted to be able to bill the government for more money, right? To pour more concrete. And that is one of the reasons why they went about the approach with the box.
Right.
This is why they were saying, we have to demolish. And remember that, remember Mary Isaac came publicly and said, we have to demolish the hospital. And then Mr. Joseph tried to say, well, after they got a lot of pressure from the people of Beaufort that says, no way you demolishing St. Jude, right? They then came back and said, oh, no, it's just an option that we have to consider. We may demolish a little bit. You remember that? So that's what happened there. So at the time when they got that project under Kenny Anthony, there's an important thing that Kenny Anthony actually did. That project did not have a definitive line of finance. As opposed to OKEU, the EU gave monies. The money was available to draw down to complete the hospital. We had a project which was then costed, but we did not have the money to be able to complete that. And Kenny Anthony had to go to Taiwan. He secured a concessionary loan of 54 million EC dollars so that the works could in fact be completed. So when the United Workers' Party came in 2016, in June of 2016, and Terence, I don't know if you recall, there's a handover report
from Shanta,
from the project coordinator, which gives a detailed breakdown
of the cost.
Year to year, how much was spent, what was available, everything, all the works that had been done. Give a whole a chronology of the project, right? When it was approved, when all of these things were done, right? So they knew, right, at that time, the hospital thus far had cost $98 million, and the monies were available, another $40 million to complete what had been done, inclusive, of course, of things like the car park, some of the external works, that type of thing, and installation, finishing up of the electricals. That was what was. So you effectively had a project that was about 80% complete at that point. Of the $98 million that was spent, about 40 million, was actually materials and equipment on island in stock, right? In other words, this was stuff that was just waiting to be brought in. Laundry equipment, kitchen equipment, the flooring, that was waiting to be brought in, right? What has happened to that equipment? We saw Mr. Guy Joseph going all about the island with police. He was, in fact, locking out contractors from the site with the police, right? Taking possession of materials and equipment for St. Jude Hospital. And we have to ask the question, what happened to nearly $40 million worth of equipment and materials that was in fact available for the completion of St. Jude. But what did they do? Instead of completing the project, you know the United Workers' Party, had they just completed St. Jude, they might have had a chance of actually being re-elected.
Yes.
In 2021.
Yes.
But they did not do that. Because they were so vindictive as to how they wanted to go forward with this project, and they were so greedy in that they wanted more opportunities
to siphon,
to make money.
Yes.
They stopped the project for 3 years. Now, just look at how those experiences from OKEU, and we should also talk about OKEU a little bit more, because OKEU was supposed to have had an MRI machine.
Yes.
And Terry, what happened to that MRI machine?
We don't know.
It went bad.
Yeah.
Because again, they did not maintain it. It was supposed to have been kept at a certain temperature, and look at what happened.
Yeah.
So we end up in a situation where millions of dollars spent, millions of dollars down the drain. St. Jude is an even worse example of that, where you had air conditioning systems.
$20 million.
About $10 million of air conditioning equipment gone, could not be used again.
Yes.
There was a building that they destroyed. Remember that they destroyed the dialysis building?
Yes.
That dialysis building had some solar PV a solar PV system on that. Nobody knows what happened to that solar PV system. And so to now come and then they started building the box. At the 11th hour in 2019, they rushed to try. We would have to show something, because this is looking bad, And so they had a big ceremony. Andre, they had a big ceremony, sword-turning ceremony for St. Jude. Right? Remember that? Money was spent on that sword-turning ceremony too.
Yes.
So we now come in talking about, sword-turning ceremonies and ceremonies. I mean, come on. That's normal for governments to do. They had a ceremony and they spent nearly $120 million on the box. And Andre and Terry, I don't know if you've seen inside the box of late.
No, I have.
But what is inside there? Is there any flooring in place?
No.
Is there any wall in place?
Walls.
Do you have any
plumbing,
partitioning in place?
Nothing.
Do you have any plumbing? Do you have any electricals?
Nothing.
Do you have any air conditioning systems?
They promised to complete it if they win the elections.
Well, they promised to complete it before, and Mr. Guy Joseph said if he did not complete St. Jude, right, he did not have a right to speak about St. Jude again.
Yeah.
They were there for 5+ years, and they did not complete it.
So
and look at the logic now. So here now you have a completed hospital. You're now saying you're promising to complete the box?
Hey, come on.
Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you should not have a strategy, a plan, maybe long term for the box, because the reality is we've sunk $120 million into that project. But to complete it now is probably going to cost the country more than that $120 million already. Right? We don't even know how much is. And so the question is, what is the strategy for the box in the long term? This government will have to outline that too. Should it become some, place for private clinics, whatever? I don't know. I'm not going to speculate at this point. What the government has said is that it has secured the box, and that it's because water was coming in, you had all sorts of issues with the design. So they're going to secure it, make it secure, and so that eventually, when it can be used, a purpose can be found for it, then it can happen. But what was most important was the completion of a working hospital, right? And that has been achieved thus far, and is again happening as we speak, in terms of getting those amenities, getting those units going at St. Jude Hospital. So the issue as well of I'm just trying to get the approach here in terms of Mr. Guy Joseph and Mr. Chasney, because they're now saying that they're going to complete it.
Yes.
Right? And the point I wanted to make is that $400 million that they're talking about, right? The hospital should have cost the country $137 million, $140 million.
Yes.
That was the original, based on what was spent under the Stephenson King administration, based on what was spent on the Kenny Anthony administration. And had they just finished it, right, with the additional $40 million, it would have cost about $140 million. What we ended up having is wastage of close to $60 million in terms of the loss of equipment that was already bought, all of those things, right? Yeah. So there was a waste of $60 million. Right. Then we had expenditure of another $120 million for a box, which we cannot complete because the cost is going to be so exorbitant to complete it, right? And then this government had to come forward to be able to spend the required amount of money to be able to complete St. Jude as it is now. Now, there's a bit of a myth that is being put out there. We know that the government went to get $200 million for a concessionary loan from the Saudi fund. The government has said very clearly that the total amount is not only for St. Jude.
Correct.
That money is St. Jude plus restoration of the George Odlum Stadium. Right? So it is not $200 million to complete St. Jude. No. And then that money that has been going into St. Jude as well is not only the physical completion of St. Jude, but also the equipment. So the contractor, as part of that contract, it was the one responsible for procurement of the equipment and bringing it in and installation and testing, right? So that is part of the contractual obligations of the contractor. The contractor will have to remain on the site to ensure that the equipment is installed properly, brought in and installed. In addition to that, he has actually, there's a 2-year maintenance agreement.
It's like a defects liability, something like that.
And then a defects liability period of 6 months. So in fact, he has a responsibility for the next 30 months to ensure that the equipment is and the hospital is properly functioning, and so he has that role. So of course there's still a role of the contractor. So this narrative that you're hearing, was the contractor still there doing there?
His trucks are there.
I mean, you know, so I just wanted to dispel that aspect. But just to point out that commissioning of a hospital is an ongoing process as well. Look, just last year, could you believe it? OKEU just commissioned the oxygen generator plant, you know. Last year, remember there was a ceremony for that? I don't know. Yeah. So it is something, and this hospital already has an oxygen generator plant. And I'm talking St. Jude.
Right.
It's already on order. They're waiting for that to be installed. And so once we get that going, it is going to be a fantastic facility. I mean, a world-class facility. And I don't think people appreciate what we're getting here, right? I just want to go through a little breakdown of the maternity department. Now, I mean, yesterday was International Children's Day. And, you know, children are born in hospitals. That's where it's the most critical part of life. You're just being born. And so you require a very good, in fact, you know, some places you have child and mother and child hospitals. And really and truly, a lot of the facilities at St. Jude are geared towards the comfort of mothers and children. So there's a 14-bed maternity wing. There is, and that includes in addition to that, 3 labor delivery rooms. There's also a dedicated C-section operating theater, right? So you don't have to go to the surgery wing, to do your C-sections. It's all in that one unit, right? In addition to that, you have your NICU, right? So your neonatal ICU. So, you know, you have preemies who are born, they need special care, special oxygen support, right? So there is a 6-bed NICU, right? Which is in fact just next to the maternity department. There is, this is all in the East Wing. There is a pediatric department with 13 beds. Then you also have a special care unit. And this was something that was actually asked for by the St. Jude Hospital board at the time. Because remember, St. Jude, the history of St. Jude was that it was been around as a private entity for most of its time, and then the government took it over. But at the same time, it still had to raise its own funding. So they were thinking about revenue streams. They were thinking about how can we make coming to St. Jude attractive, not even just for people in the south, but people in Gros Islet, people all over the island, right? So they actually ensured that there was a special care unit with a number of private rooms, right? So in fact, they have more private rooms than OKEU, right? Available there. So you have that a wing that actually has, I think, about 7 private rooms, and then you have 2 semi-private as well beds. And then there's also a very large visitor lounge for people to visit persons who are coming into that. You have a medical department with wards for 15 beds. Then you move on to the surgical side, right? The surgical wing on the first floor level. You have the orthopedic and surgical department. You have 21 beds inside of there, inclusive of 6 private rooms as well. On that same level, you have 2 operating theaters, a very, very large one, and you also have a smaller one for day elective surgeries, that sort of thing. You have about 8 beds for your anesthesiology section. You know, you're coming in for, you prep for your surgery. You got your anesthesiology section. Then you also have, in addition to that, a 3-bed ICU brought in. And downstairs on the ground floor of surgical, you have your 8-bed accident and emergency unit. So you're talking about a total of about 91 beds. You have meeting and training rooms. You have a 36-seat training classroom. You have a reception and outpatient waiting area, which can seat 80 people at any one time. You have a pharmacy. You have a business center. You have your health information unit, because health information is a key aspect to delivery of modern health services. You have your social services unit. You have outpatients. Now, outpatients is the ground floor of the East Wing. So that is your triage. You have an eye clinic. You have a dental clinic. You have an oncology clinic. You have a urology and nephrology clinic. You have an orthopedic and general surgery clinic. You have a OBGYN clinic. You have an internal medicine and cardiology clinic. You have an outpatient clinic management center, your pediatric clinic as well. Then you have, as I said, the dialysis part. Now, dialysis is actually in the part that was being built by the Alan Chastney administration. Remember, he knocked down the dialysis building, and they built a new dialysis. So this government is using they're using it. They're using. So this narrative, that boy, we're going back to the box. Part of the box, quote unquote, is being used. The dialysis building is being used, and the physiotherapy building is being used. Because of adjacency, they're relatively close to the original St. Jude, so they in fact are being utilized. And so in there you have it's designed for 25 chairs. You also have your doctors on-call facilities in that space. You have in the physiotherapy as well, and then you have more administrative offices above physiotherapy. You have a gift shop. You're going to visit somebody at the hospital, you can get some flowers, you can get a nice gift. So you see the thinking and the modernity of the hospital that was being created. And then all the support services which we've been hearing about, the kitchen, most modern kitchen that you can find, the laundry, the equipment that you have. You even have a place for fixing stuff, a sewing room and all kind of thing like that. You have an oxygen generator plant at St. Jude. You have a 15,000 square foot warehouse. And the thinking then was that because you have a hospital, and we know sometimes the distance from Castries, we've seen what has happened, like Thomas, where the country has been cut in half. You need to ensure that that hospital is resilient and can in fact operate for a length of time, right? To ensure that so you have your supplies on site, and that is designed. That was another add-on, so to speak, for the hospital. So 15,000 square foot. So that is for your equipment, backup equipment, your food provisions. So you have cold storage for food, you have cold storage for medicines, pharmaceuticals. So it's a whole complex, which is very important for a hospital to function. You have 175,000 gallon water storage, 2 water tanks, which are to the north side of that. So that is going to provide the hospital with a 7-day supply of water in cases of emergency. That's very critical. You have, of course, the security of the space as well needs to be spoken to, right? Card accesses for all various rooms and doors, so people can't just walk in anywhere. And that's something that we don't even have in many places that need it at OKU. And that was designed, and it's part of it. You have over 196 CCTV cameras installed. You have a fire suppression system that is state of the art. You heard the fire department when they went down there and they visited St. Jude, and they were said that they're so impressed with some of the things. They go be above and beyond the requirements.
Wow.
Was any of that in place in 2019? When you had a situation where a hospital got approval, it didn't have health approval, it didn't have fire approval, it didn't have MEP designs, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing designs. You know, there were a whole host of things that were not in place and was still outstanding in the box.
Wow. Alex, you have given
Chalk and cheese.
You have described to me there a first world-class facility, and I think we ought to be proud. Let's just take a break. Andre, just run. Let Alex catch his breath there, take a drink of water, and we shall be back. All right, Andre, we'll buy an hour, right?
This is Meet the Minister with Terence Fenelon.
I am Ernest Hilaire, Minister for Tourism, Investment, Culture, Creative Industries, and Information. St. Lucia has entered a new chapter, one of record-breaking growth, community empowerment, and sustainable tourism. Just a few years ago, our tourism sector was facing unprecedented challenges, but we saw an opportunity and we took it. Today, we are proud of what we've achieved. We are breaking records. Over 450,000 stayover arrivals, over 829 cruise passenger arrivals, thousands of hotel rooms being constructed, over 25 community projects launched across St. Lucia. We are making progress. We are transforming the tourism industry. We are putting St. Lucians first. And for us, it is important that our people participate more in the tourism industry. It's important that our people start owning the tourism industry. We are delivering as we promise. From vibrant carnival expressions to authentic community experiences, we are not just growing, we are growing together.
I am Sean Edward, Minister for Education. The last 4 years have been arguably the best for St. Lucians in recent memory. Our theme was putting people first. And in every facet of national development, national programming, this is what we've done. We've been able to refurbish scores of primary and secondary schools. We've been making massive investments in housing at the community level. And even our hospital infrastructure has received a tremendous amount of investment and resources. The school children have a lot to be thankful for. The elderly folk through the home care program. And even more specifically, how we've been able to enhance the circumstances of pensioners is something that is being spoken about, and it is something that resonates not only on St. Lucian shores, but even in the wider Caribbean. People are speaking very glowingly about our government's intervention in terms of increasing pension and pension benefits. We look after the poor and indigent, but we are the same government that ensures that there is this investment climate and atmosphere where millions of dollars and billions of dollars can come into the country as foreign direct investment to ensure that massive projects are undertaken. And very importantly, it speaks to the level of confidence that people have in this Philip J. Pierre administration.
This is Meet the Minister, live on Rev-Up St. Lucia with Terence Fenelon.
Yes,
Terence is back to you.
Thank you, Andre. Calix has been batting on a very nice wicket there. And we just want to touch one more issue about the health insurance and stuff.
But even before health insurance, though, just the whole approach
before we open the lines,
of the United Workers' Party towards healthcare has to be questioned, because here they are coming, suggesting that they're. But I mean, look at the vaccine situation.
Right.
Wow. Which government would have taken? There were three governments. Remember, there were three governments: Bahamas, Barbados, and St. Lucia. They were approached by a Barbadian who said, "Hey, he's going to arrange for vaccines to come in." This was in the heights of COVID, right? And we were the only country to put out $7.2 million for vaccines.
Handwritten check
to a company that was in the business. The only known thing of the direct, they were in the business of selling cement. Cement. Right? And then the company as well was registered mere days before in St. Lucia. And we have, I mean, what, and then what does it say? Oh, well, he knew the gentleman.
And he did the background check, due diligence.
He knew the gentleman.
Yeah.
And it just so happens that the gentleman was in business with a close family member of his.
An in-law of his, yes.
This is not how you can run a country. And I mean, that is part of the problem. So when he's now coming and talking about he's going to be planning a health insurance, who's in the back? Who is behind the scenes of this supposed health insurance? Mm-hmm. Who is the company that is going to be involved in this? Because that's big business in the United States of America. United States of America is the biggest spender on healthcare, right? But the biggest block is the insurance companies. That's where the money flows, and everything is designed to. And we have to be very, very wary of that kind of approach. That's not the approach that many countries have taken. In the UK, it's very different. And so we have to ask about the intentions in respect of that national health insurance that he's promoting. Now, it's not to say that you cannot have some, because we know we have a national insurance corporation. Yeah. Is he going to work through them? We're not hearing that. Is he going to create, there are so many unknowns.
Because the math just isn't mathing. I mean, he has not yet put out the details. We don't know anything. And then he cannot even explain.
But he said yesterday that he's going to raise $120 million through premiums. Now, let's look at the logic, Let's look at the logic. Right now, you are complaining about a 2.5% levy that is raising about $40 million, right? A year. But you're then telling people that you now want to raise 3 times that amount from insurance premiums. So I mean, help St. Lucians understand
the math.
How that is really. And then he somehow claims that money is not going to be going towards the salaries of doctors, and the running of the hospital. Now, a lot of that makes absolutely no sense. But what I can say, though, is that there's been a lot of work done in terms of universal health care. Assistance from the World Bank since the time of Emma Hippolyte, Dr. Stephen King. There have been committees looking at healthcare financing. In fact, Stephenson King was supposed to have been a chair of a joint committee on getting a bilateral support towards going forward with healthcare financing. And it is an important aspect because we do know that it costs to ensure that you have the health system in place. It's a challenge for everywhere around the world. But the reality is that we're already seeing under this government some very remarkable things. When Andre and Terry, when you have that program, that home health program, over 800 people benefiting from staying at their homes and getting care. You can't get that quality of care in Canada. Sometimes you think about these first world countries, but when you actually find out how that is a major challenge right now, this social care support. And we have a system like that which was created by a St. Lucia Labour Party government operating right now. We are the government that ensured that you had a brand new Comfort Bay. We are the government that is providing pensions for persons, for seniors, so that they can live a more dignified life at this point in time. They're getting their bonus again next week.
By Tuesday.
Plus, of course, doubling of, a lot of them got double the pension increase, increases of NIC pensions. And then, of course, the UHC aspects that we have seen under this government as well are phenomenal, in terms of support for men getting their PSA tests, women getting mammograms, free cervical cancer screening, the 80 plus support for seniors, the mother and child care, your ultrasounds being taken care of by this government. So you are seeing a government that is already hypertension and diabetes care. So many areas where you're already seeing the benefits of that 2.5% levy, in fact, making a difference in the lives of people and the healthcare.
Okay, Andre, I mean, we are here. We might take a few phone calls if you allow us to.
Sure.
You could just give out the numbers.
My pleasure.
Yes.
Okay, the fixed line is 572-9710. Fixed line 572-9710. Or you can WhatsApp 287-0971. WhatsApp is 287-0971. Again, the fixed line 572-9710 or WhatsApp 287-0971. In studio is Terence Fenelon alongside Calix George Jr.
Andre, we know that people's attention is diverted because they're sending me highlights. I don't know if you get it.
Of the nomination
day. and somebody told me, man, if you fought, man, from the town to the airport, Man, that's blocked because it's carnival down there, Now they said, well, they're very biased. They're only sending me reds. The red, the mood is red. They're sending me the mood is red. So colleagues, I understand that that everywhere. I mean, I saw South Castries with Ernest. It looks like Red International. Again, and Andre, it's just back. It's a nice time. So I understand. That's why I'm going to say. People listening now, you're scheduling because what the information that has been given out there by Calix is priceless. I think it puts to bed a lot of the misinformation that is being spouted by the other side, because we know they're just trying to latch on to something. They have nothing of substance to offer, so they're trying to latch on to something which we know already is not there. But
and Terry, you look at every single sector.
Yes.
If you do an analysis of every single sector in this country and what the UWP did under Alan Chastney versus what has been done under Philip J. Pierre, it is night and day in comparison.
Yeah. And I notice you have your book From Promises to Reality.
Yes.
You have a call.
Wait, okay, we have a call. Let's take that call. Good morning, caller. Thanks for calling. Meet the minister. Oh, I need my headphones.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to... Is it Mr. Calix George Jr.?
Yes, Mr. Fibbles. It's Calix George Jr.
Anyhow, and the gentleman who hosted. What's his name again?
Fenelon. Terrence Fenelon.
Fenelon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Fenelon, you always promise you will get back to Andrea on my questions, but I have a question for Mr. George now.
Go right ahead. I'm listening.
I have a clip by investigative reporter Gail Elliott on the after the fire, and it was and the people burnt to ashes, especially one gentleman like Dr. Wilson was saying in an interview. And in that interview, Stevenson King could not answer questions that they wanted to put for him with millions of dollars and a cash cow, etc. Then there was another prime minister. That was Kenny Anthony. The same thing. In the end, over $180 million was gone through.
That's an inaccurate figure, by the way. Wrong figure. But continue.
You can correct me, whilst you're there.
Right, and I gave the information earlier on to indicate that during the King administration, about $33 million was spent. And then under 33 million?
Under Stevenson King?
Yes. And under the Kenny Anthony administration, an additional $65 million was spent.
Well, I have a clip. Kenny Anthony is not saying what you just said.
Yeah, that's fine. But he probably has not remembered it, but I can show you. If you go to the estimates, estimates of revenue and expenditure for the respective years, you will see what I'm talking about, and it's backed up there.
We're not arguing that because I know your father used to teach me, and I was one of his best students.
Well, I'm not sure that you were the best student or one of the best students, but go on.
The jury is still out on that.
Go on.
E.T. says, I am the best. I was the best.
Okay, E.T., let's continue. Let's get to the question, E.T.
So, yes, Mr. George.
Yes.
Then, during that area, Kenny Anthony tweeted that millions of dollars was given in donations. Even my little nephew gave 20 American dollars. And the banks, even the red cap people, young children from different schools, and the Taiwanese on 2 occasions. And Kenny Anthony tweeted, up to now, we don't know where that money went to. That's number one. Kenny Anthony also said, about the wrong type of engineers. Magic Singh and some Conrad guy who was not even qualified. He said that. And he also said that the St. Jude Hospital...
Kenny Anthony said that?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I'm not privy to your
yes,
clip, but anyways, go on.
Don't check it. Okay? And there's this engineer that was there. He stated in that clip with Stevenson King that he was so happy that Guy Joseph was vindicated. He used the word vindicated. And he said it was a special case that it would have gone to university students to study of what took place during Prime Minister King. He even said that. Then the man turned around and was on a different situation. What I'm saying to you, let's be clever. You're a bright guy. You went to SMC too. Also Fenelon. I just heard that. But anyhow, let me ask you a question. Let's compare the two buildings. Why I say buildings, I'm not saying hospital because the chief said buildings. He didn't build a hospital, he have a building. Okay? As a man, when the Saudis came and they saw that modernized hospital and they looked at the other hospital, what would you think they thought was, and your thought? Would you choose that 81-year-old that went through so much cash cows, the curse of people burns? Won't you just not...
The question, may I respond now?
All right, yes. Thank you, E.T. We got...
All right.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
The point is, the decision was taken by the King administration, of which Guy Joseph and Alan Chasney were part of, to redevelop the original St. Jude Hospital. They decided so, that they were designed to support that. They went about doing just that. That was continued by Kenny Anthony with some improvements to the facility, right? There were some, as I indicated, there were some things that the board wanted to actually see, and they in fact did that. What you then had was a project that was 80% complete, which could have been completed because there was financing available, and that government chose not to complete it. Now that is, I mean, one of the worst acts that we have ever seen, to me, in the history of this country, because you are dealing with a situation where you had the means. Now, if you wanted to say, well, after we complete it, we will do an expansion, we will do an extension, then okay. That would have been a sensible approach in terms of project implementation. That was not what they did. They literally stopped a project, at a point where it should have been a complete thing years ago for the benefit of... Now, you've got to do your cost-benefit analysis when you're looking at these situations, because the reality is they still could not complete what is the quote-unquote box.
Yes, yeah.
At the 11th hour, they were looking for funds. They were trying to raise $70 million to be able to just try to do something in the ground floor of St. Jude Hospital.
Yeah,
that did not include the top floor. That did not include any civil works. That did not include any equipment, medical equipment. That was not there at all. So again, you have to look at comparing the value that you were able to do. What could you have been able to complete quicker? Yeah. And a responsible economical government would have done that. The United Workers' Party failed to do that.
Right, okay. If E.T. was listening, he would have got that at the start. Okay, do we have another caller?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Gentlemen, I think you all are doing the United Workers' Party an injustice. I'll tell you why. You all are treating the time that the United Workers' Party was in power and the SLP in power as the same types of years, and that's not true. With the pandemic, they did not have 5 years. You cannot say that. As a matter of fact...
Excuse me, miss. Excuse me, if I may, right? The United Workers' Party... No, I know where you're going with this. The United Workers...
Hello. If you're going to listen or I'm going to cut you off, you have to listen.
Allow her to call.
Okay,
go on. I'll hear you out. But I know where you're going and I already have an answer. Go ahead.
So you'll allow me to talk now?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, caller, go ahead.
So I said that. Now, my question is this. Y'all are now saying that y'all are giving a billion. I am not saying no. However, did y'all have to call the elections now? Y'all could have called the elections in May, and then the equipment would have come in, fit the equipment, and give the people a hospital. But no. Y'all had the motive that y'all felt at this time y'all can maybe give the person's money, fool people's eyes with money, and fool them and get them so...
well, that's a lot of conjecture now. I'm not sure where you're going.
And because of that now, now y'all have not equipped the hospital to give out, and so you're not saying y'all are giving a building. I don't agree with that. I find the elections could have been a little later. Y'all fill the building, y'all equip the building, and give us the people a hospital.
Thank you very much.
Now, and let me tell you, and it's not a box. All over the world they look like that. They're not boxes.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day, my
Thank you.
All right, let me just address the first part of the about the timing, right? In terms of the United Workers' Party term, the United Workers' Party was handed over a project that was 80% complete, and they could have finished it within a year. They could have finished it. Everything was indicating that it was there. If you look at the handover report from the project coordinator, it says specifically just that. So the idea, you were already given a wonderful opportunity.
And Guy Joseph is on record as saying
they were given a wonderful opportunity, which they decided to flounder.
That's right.
And so now to come and say that the years are not the same. So what happened from 2016? What happened from 2017? What happened in 2018? What happened in 2019? That's 4 years.
And he is on record as saying that had they continued,
it was 3.5 because June of 2016.
They would have needed just 18 months to finish. Now Andrea could have played that.
It was only until 2019 that they then tried to rush something. And so this idea of talking about COVID, which was a year effectively, right? 2020, that period.
And COVID did not only affect St. Lucia.
A year and a half?
Yes.
And work was going on during that period in any case. So it's not to say that the work was not being done.
All right. We'll take another call. Good morning. Thanks for calling me, the Minister.
Bonjour, Monsieur Feleno.
Bonjour,
Bonjour, Monsieur Paul.
Bonjour, Monsieur.
Bonjour, Monsieur
Calix George.
Monsieur Calix George. C'est d'où ça? C'est madame qui parle là. Yo pas ni honte encore yo.
Sorry. You have to show respect.
Don't insult anybody there.
Right.
All right.
Moi apologie.
Pour sa vie.
Oui, pour sa vie. Bon, ça là d'où là. Tout le monde qui a regardé pour la bataille yo. Ko asi nous de akagoumen. Avec moi la bataille là sous maray batou. Qu'on aille la bataille comme ça qui bon pour nous. Et puis monsieur Feleno, on madame, yo me katray couyo, on madame te dou comme ça pour dire c'est mon about expliquer ba c'est mon comment est pour voter. Hot list voter ni anti board chaque meeting. Ou te ba bon yo so tu peux faire John Paul ni ça.
Le gars fait l'autre quoi.
Because une jeune monde là qui vient pas connaître mal pour un vote extra. Et puis m'a dit les bons partis là entre là, ouais bah extra, nous va changer mon ça. Nous va changer ça. Depuis moi lever petit bail mon lettre vote extra, nous pour changer ça. Regardez-moi l'autre mode plutôt. Because top pour ça me c'est a dans choisir été 140 votes qui gâté. C'est trop bon. Quand nous pour prêcher bah c'est tout ça tout. Nous pas veux spoil ballot encore. Et monsieur c'est mon manière pour faire extra break là because c'est pas ça. Quand tu pour gagner si ça on va perdre because il est yon 100 moun vote ba les bon ba candidat simple because of tout gâté l'autre side là 40 gagne on commence à d'accord. Oui monsieur c'est mon affaire avec monsieur George. Explain by mon for 75,000 ça et qui laisse back qui assurance une show ba assurance parce que là dans l'âge assurance pas assurance pas couvrir ça. Explain by ce moun ça votre parti monsieur George s'il vous plaît. Et monsieur moi-même monsieur fait le meeting explain by ce moun dit $75,000 ça sans gimmick.
Oui, ça pas comprendre les ex moun là yo même pas ça expliquer qui ça you va faire.
Madame Paul vérité qu'a parler sur la mairie et en l'autre monsieur qui dit que ça pour 14.5 billion pour couvrir 180,000 moun ça. Vous commencez à la là. Monsieur a fait max ça et puis budget non pas flipper 2 billion. Ko ka prend l'argent pour ça faire ça tout ça expliquer ba ces moun là. Fait c'est que mon comprendre.
You voulez vaguely non mais ça va y travail.
On nous explain by c'est comme mon adam qui dit monsieur.
D'accord. Donnez l'autre call là. D'accord. Merci.
Moi la raconter. OK, all right.
Tu as le call André?
OK.
Oh, they hung up. Sorry.
Oh, the person hung up. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, we have 5 more minutes, sir. We have 5 more minutes.
Shameless.
Okay, here's the caller. Here's the caller.
All right.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thanks for calling me, the minister.
Final call.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to know what is the big difference, because I hear people say it's not a hospital, it's a building. It's not a hospital. It's an institutional building that houses medical equipment,
Yes.
medical workers, and all of those things. So why all the thing of this is a building and not a hospital? All how you house a hospital is it's in a building, and I don't see why people have to be making all that thing about it.
Because caller, the United Workers' Party failed to deliver a hospital in their 5 years and 2 months in power. Could not even deliver half a building. Yeah. They were trying to deliver half a building. Yeah. They could not even deliver that half of the building, the ground floor.
And I'm listening to all of that, and I'm just saying that people were convincingly conning people as contractors. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, Andre has put the axe on us. The axe has come down. So, Alex, maybe your final thoughts.
As I was saying, we are seeing, of course, at this time, a lot of attempts at propaganda. Mm-hmm. And the major one that the United Workers' Party is pushing right now is healthcare and the St. Jude Hospital. And really and truly, they need to deal with their own record as to what they did during their time. Because all we got were hospitals that laid there for 4 years, not commissioned, only at being forced to be commissioned with COVID-19. Mm-hmm. What we got was millions of dollars disappearing as a result of vaccines that we never got as a country. What we got was, in fact, we never got a St. Jude hospital. We never got a building. We never got anything delivered under the United Workers' Party with respect to healthcare. Why would one look at what has been achieved already? Look at the systems that are being done in terms of healthcare right now. The improvements, the Betty Wells Polyclinic, extension of the Grosley, Dr. Martin Didier Polyclinic is ongoing right now. We're seeing improvements at health centers from Delse, Larry Seuss, the Larry Seuss Health Center, state fire destroyed it, the state burnt, never finished recommission. And there was financing available for it. Right? I mean, you go through all these various, and you see this pattern recurring in nearly every sector, you know. Look at crime. We haven't even spoken about the home affairs and the police, and the fact that the approach to the United Workers' Party was having a ball every year to raise a little kakada to say that is going to be what we're going to be using to really support the police. And you're seeing this government give $20 million worth of equipment, over 70 vehicles, ATVs, even jet skis to support the work of the police. 1,300 bulletproof vests. Every single officer is now getting their own vest. They don't have to share. Again, the CCTV camera investment. And not just that, we're seeing the results. You're hearing from the police at this point in time, the results. But you're seeing the commitment for the long term, because this is the challenge that we have had over the past couple of years. We've been going back and forth in a pendulum. This is an opportunity at this point in time to put the country on a stable footing, and so that the country does not take risks with people who, when they are in power, they're up with their high coats and their top hats at the horse races, putting horses before hospitals. But when they are now in opposition, trying to get into power, they are singing a completely different tune. And I think we have to realize the wolves in sheep's clothing. That's right. Terry. So with that, I think I've said enough.
All right, Andre, I want to thank you for the extended time, Andre. You seem to have had a ball,
You're
Andre.
welcome.
You seem fixated. You didn't even ask a question. You know, you normally interrupt me to ask questions.
How can I disturb this library of information?
Well, Andrew, I'm happy that you know where the substance of governance is. Andrew, I'm counting on you to make the right decision at the right time. Andrew,
you sound like a typical principal. You see him? He's still waving his finger.
He can't help it.
Okay, remove my fingers, remove my arms. And I mean, around the country, it's bacchanal time. People be safe. Be safe. enjoy yourselves. I mean, you're going to cross path, UWP, SLP. We are citizens together.
Leave the people's flags alone.
Yes, leave them here.
And then post them.
Yeah. No insults, no fighting, nothing like that. Let's embrace each other. Because when it is all said and done, we have to live together.
That's right.
All right.
That's
so
right.
let's be nice
Amen.
and civil to each other. Let's enjoy the revelry, I'll call it, together. Let's have a good time. But let's be safe. Let's be civil. And let's just move around, nicely. So, Andre, I want to thank you. Maybe, Calix, you might have to do that next Friday,
Not a
because
problem.
I suspect these fellas will be on the hustings, man, again. Andre always likes when you're here. Yeah.
I can relax.
So, people have a very safe and enjoyable weekend. See you next Friday.
Thank you, Terence Felano and Calix George Jr. Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend.
Responsibility for housing. From 2021, this country has seen progress. We've seen 4 steady years of economic growth. We've seen a return of the laptop.